Hey guys, welcome to SA Rugby Mag's Weekend Wrap. I'm here with Wade Pretorius. Wade, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Happy to be here.
Good. So we just had a little look at our Super Brew record so far, and I think fair to say both of us have done pretty poorly up until this point. But this weekend passed and didn't really bring up too many surprises. What was just your take on the Bulls? Let's start there maybe. The Bulls bouncing back with an important win for them after 4 successive losses.
Yeah, delighted for the Bulls, especially because I backed them the last 2 weeks and got no Super Brew points. Backed the Highlanders this week and also got a little north there. So the Bulls finally got one done. It wasn't part of our wish list that we bring out every week. I did mention that with Marnie Libbok starting, I was hoping that the Bulls could find something, and get the win, but also turn on a good display. And the first half was putrid, mainly because both teams decided to come out in blue, and you couldn't tell either side apart. Bulls switched jerseys and switched on into finally third, fourth, and then fifth gear, and really ran away with it. So it was a great game actually in the second half.
Yeah, I actually missed the first half, but I think when I rocked up just in time to catch the halftime chat in the studio with Supersport, I was pretty glad to have missed it because it sounded like the guys in the Supersport studio were falling asleep. They were complaining about the quality of rugby, the jersey clash. It was pretty amateurish sort of stuff that we saw there. But the second half, like you say, the Bulls really switched it on. And that was good to see because it's been really problematic last year. They were obviously the leading South African side, and it's been a nightmare season. I just wonder why Porty Human's taken so long to switch things up a little bit. Before the season started, I said Marnie Libbok must get a run at 10. He's a talented youngster. It seemed like it was a bit of a backward move to go with Morne Steyn, or at least a safety first option. Embrose Papier brings something different at scrum half, a very exciting talent at 9. So, they're always going to make mistakes, but at least roll the dice a little bit. The Bulls seem to have gone backwards at the beginning of the campaign, but hopefully this will kickstart something a bit more productive for them.
Yeah, I mean the horses bolted as far as their campaigns sort of gone so far. So yeah, at last Porty made the change because their back three is also very good. Gallant, Roscoe Speckman obviously bagged a hat-trick. I mean,
Cornel Hendricks was very good.
Cornel Hendricks was his imposing best as well. So the Bulls certainly have the back line, but they need to be given the freedom and the license to play. I mean, as part of our next magazine, we look at great Super Rugby moments through the years, and while their forwards have dominated and they've had some amazing names, their backline's also been really impressive. And when given the freedom, the license to roam, they really do turn on the style. Yep. So I think that's got to be the way forward now, and just let the youngsters go for it and see what happens.
And then turning to the team I've been wanting to talk about, the Sharks. I think before the season started, I in a prediction said that they were likely to be the conference winners, and you laughed me out of the room and said I'm biased because I'm from Durban. Mm-hmm. But this weekend, another winner of the Jaguars, coming back off a successful tour overseas, and gone to the top of the log. So you've got to admit the Sharks are looking pretty good.
No, I think I'll now eat my humble pie. Good. Your bias still, I mean, is something we need to work on, but the Sharks are impressive. Not only just their performances, but everything they're doing. They've got a great culture. Their CEO is running a wonderful program at that franchise, and you can see how from top to bottom everything is just coming through. It's a little bit frightening, the legacy that they could build, because they've said that they're going to try and keep hold of their best players and be loyal to the players who've been loyal to them. And so you can actually see how they're building. I still maintain that they do need a few more tighter forwards, but Oxen Chair this weekend was phenomenal. If you go and have a look at their first try, you see how many forwards were involved. It's phenomenal, and he was actually the one that brought the ball sort of straight in the line and sent them on their way. Giles Stransky referred to it as the backline doing the work, and there were no backlines involved in the try. So it was something to see that everyone at the Sharks was putting their weight. Very impressive. That game was supposed to be close. Jaguars was supposed to be a phenomenal, combative side. Yes, they were, because they've got a sighting for a little cheeky stamp to the head, which is obviously something that needs to be cut out of the game. But they were blown away by the Sharks, free-flowing ball in hand and doing the basics really well as well.
Yeah, I think the Sharks have, they've really rebranded the way they play at the moment. You speak of obviously the backline they've got. The guy who's been most impressive to me and to most probably is Apolele Fassi. I think we're going to see him become a Springbok in July when Georgia and then Scotland come here. For me, he's probably the most exciting fullback that we've seen on the local scene for quite some time. He's got all the tricks, all the ability, certainly with ball in hand, but he's also someone who's not afraid of contact. So I think he's really come of age in the first few rounds, and I think he's only going to get better and better. And then, like you say, Oxenchair's been a great addition to the Sharks. They've recruited wisely with the players that they've got in the off-season, none more so than Sigambo's and Noche. And I don't know what your thoughts on Noche are, but I mean, we had an interview that we ran on the website last week where he speaks about the fact he just wanted to get out of his comfort zone. He feels good at the Sharks. The coach is backing him. So he's always had the talent, but now he's got the game plan and the team around him to really express himself, and he's been doing that amazingly. His numbers, and not only in terms of his running meters, try assists, he scored a great try on his own on Saturday, but then to go with that, his defence has been amazing. I think he's missed one tackle out of nearly 50 attempts this whole campaign, so it's been a pretty nuts start for him.
Yeah, you can see how he's really thriving in an environment where he feels like he's being honoured as a player, and he's really performing and stepping up. I think the big takeaway with the three players that you mentioned is that under with director of coaching now, Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Nienaber, we're going to see guys like Fassi, Noche and Nche really given a good opportunity in the Springbok setup, and probably a nice, easy start to life with the June tour not being such a high-profile one. But someone like Fassi is going to really reap the rewards of Cheslin Colby's rise, maybe not in height, but certainly in stature. So in the past we've seen smaller players sort of being sidelined because we've had this fascination and this need for bulk. But if you now, it doesn't matter if you're good enough, doesn't matter how tall you are, you're going to get the chance. And we've seen with Colby just do amazing things. And Fassi as a footballer is really impressive, and Noche as well, someone that can really add something new to the Springbok pack.
Yeah, I think those three that we speak of it's a perfect time for them to come through. I mean, Ox is going to fill the shoes of Beast, or at least he's hoping to do so at the Sharks and the Springbok level, with Beast having retired. At fullback, Billy Leroux is still going to be around for a little bit at 30 years old, but there's been a real need to find a suitable backup, certainly in terms of the local option. So Fassi ticks that box. And then Noche, another one, at number 8, we really needed someone else to step up in terms of giving some competition to the 8th-man berth with Dwayne Vermeulen getting on in years and maybe only having a couple left at this level. So those are three important positions in terms of national interest, and it's been important for them to get the exposure and break through as they have.
Yeah, and obviously at the Sharks, they're doing culture-wise, they're now getting a culture of winning week in and week out. I know that they've got some big games coming up, but these guys are going to be part of a successful setup, and they're going to go into a Springbok setup that really is in one of the best places it's ever been. So it's the perfect time to groom new players, and obviously every side needs competition for places because that breeds excellence and that drives players on. We've seen that with the scrum half battle, we've seen that with our wings, and it's looking so good now where we're developing depth in the front row, and at 8, where Dwayne Vermeulen was pretty much untouchable, and he'll still be the favourite, but we're getting big name players coming through strongly.
Yeah, let's just touch briefly on the Lions. Probably the less said the better at the moment. For a team that is going through a rebuilding phase, but it's hard not to remember them being almost untouchable in terms of leading the South African way, making 3 finals in a row. Probably very unlucky to not at least bag one trophy during that time. And a team that just looks a little bit unsure of their identity at the moment. The coaching staff has obviously had a change. Ivan van Rooyen there in the head coaching berth. Some questions of whether maybe he's up to the task or whether he's been rushed through to that elevated position maybe too quickly. Certainly questions that have to be answered. They had Swayze de Bruin there last year and there was some stability, but with him having left, it left a bit of a gap in terms of the coaching. And then the squad itself with players of experience and who kind of lived and breathed that Lions culture. They've had a new shake-up with their personnel, and it hasn't quite translated into results, and a heavy loss that they suffered against the Rebels, who haven't looked that flash themselves. So clearly big problems at Joburg.
I think they're massive problems. If you look at how they go about trying to conduct themselves over 80 minutes, you can't really see a strategy, and you can only just see problems. They don't know really. Their game management is gone completely out the window. I mean, they've gone through a lot, and it is the real now starting from scratch. I think that this campaign will just see them trying to eke out a win here and there, but you can't see them. They're up against the Blues next week. The Blues are in fine form now. They were the surprise winners. I think most people would have had the Hurricanes to edge the Blues at home, and now the Blues, after doing what they did to the Stormers, beat the Hurricanes in a a game at home against the Lions, I mean, that could get messy.
Yeah. I think before moving on to Six Nations, it has seemed, and from a South African perspective, where you always compare yourself to the New Zealand franchises, I haven't been blown over by anything the New Zealand teams are doing this year, and I think that's quite a big thing in terms of the context of our national teams. And the All Blacks have lost a lot of players after the World Cup, as have we. But to see the Sharks and to maybe a slightly lesser degree the Stormers still performing pretty well, it bodes well for the year ahead, and maybe some alarm bells slowly starting to ring in that New Zealand national context, where they aren't just year after year just making an easy transition from Test rugby, more success to Super Rugby, and back and forth. I don't know if you've thought New Zealand sides are maybe not as unbeatable as they once were.
Yeah, I mean, I think the perfect example was the Crusaders playing the Reds this weekend. I mean, they really scrapped through. I mean, the Reds are pretty average outfit themselves, so to only scrape through, they have enough class and strength and depth to get over the line. But when you look at the international game, then maybe there are a few alarm bells. I think as South Africans, we've always had to be a little bit cautious because, we've had a lot to deal with as some players leaving, not making themselves available. Now, all of a sudden, we're in such a good place. So, do we just get full-blown optimist and say, with the Sharks playing so well, the Stormers only lost once, so now let's kick on, maybe a small little revival at the Bulls, and all of a sudden the Springbok depth with our overseas players adding, we can go out and really stamp our mark in the international scene over the next 2 years. I know that everything's building up to that Lions tour, and it's hard not to be excited at the prospect of us turning in a really, really good squad and looking unbeatable and hands down favourite for that series. So in New Zealand, it's about time. I mean, they've had so many years of just being the absolute best and setting the pace and setting the pinnacle. Now it's time for the Springboks to really match that and go on a nice little 3-4 year run of matching that excellence.
Cool. Before we finish up, let's just chat Six Nations briefly. I mean, saw yesterday Scotland, France humding over or sort of an atmosphere at least, on Scotland's home ground, and many thought France, unbeaten before this weekend, were favourites to edge that one and keep up their hopes of the Grand Slam and the Six Nations title. But is there anything more French than that brain fade from their prop swinging a punch, getting a red card, changed the whole context and course of the match? They go on to lose, and now it's probably England as the favourites to claim the title. Yeah,
I think England will. I mean, they've got to be installed as the new favourites. Yeah, I mean, that's just France for you. And also Scotland, because Scotland at home with that rousing rendition of Flower of Scotland, I mean, I think if its home ground advantage is a couple of points, well, that rendition was an extra couple. So France was certainly up against it. The Scots were fired up, and you can't afford to cost your team with ill discipline. It's insane. I mean, it's the exact opposite of Elwyn Jones not reacting to the Joe Marler incident, and he said so after the game. He reacts, he gets a red card, and he knows that what he's doing to his side. And I mean, the French, I don't know if they just don't feel the need to deal with the consequences of their actions. They might feel they've still got a great shot at the Grand Slam, but if they were 15,
the Six Nations title at least.
The Six Nations, if they were 15 on 15, do they win that game? Maybe they do, but you really set yourself up with a huge disadvantage by getting a guy sent off.
Yeah. Also, red card in the England-Wales game. That could have been costly for England if there was just another few minutes to play, because they only just held on against Wales, but probably the deserved team came out on top. So for England, after a World Cup final of such disappointment, there's always that concern that they're probably going to have a bit of a hangover, maybe fail to carry on performing. But credit to them for being able to find another way to win in a lot of games, and now maybe going to get that Six Nations title when the competition comes to an end. They got the Triple Crown. So that's impressive from their side. I don't know if you had a close look at that Tuilagi incident and red card. I mean, Eddie Jones has said it's a ridiculous decision, but there's such strict enforcement of anything, any contact to the head, or that could be perceived as dangerous. But it was one of those fluid situations in a rugby game. It's kind of coming across to make a cover tackle. It's very difficult for players now in the heat of the moment to actually get that stuff under control. It's a very grey area. It's causing a lot of controversy in the game.
I think the big thing in that incident is I didn't see too much of him trying to get his arms around, even a little bit. It looked like a no-arms tackle. So for me, I feel like it's justified. The World Rugby are very clear on what they're trying to do and protect shots above the shoulder. And Tulagi himself didn't seem to react too badly to the incident. I know Eddie Jones, but isn't that he's just a rent-a-quote most of the time, trying to divert attention, Jose Mourinho style, if you were. So, yeah, for me, I don't mind that's a red card. I do know that things happen terribly quick in rugby, and that you're going to have more of these things, but player safety has to come first. It's just, it would be horrific to see something, a real severe injury happen in front of everyone. I think that's what they're trying to do, is just to make sure that player safety at the end of the day is looked after.
Cool. Thanks, Wadey. I think we'll leave it there.